Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host J.R. Stewart.
And good evening, everyone. I am your co host, Tommy Duncan. Welcome to Black Men Speak. It is Wednesday night.
Yes, it is. And we want to give a big thanks to Liquid for providing our theme music. And as you guys can see, we're starting to make some changes on the show. We've changed our opening theme um, to make it a little more visual, and we will have some other changes coming in the future. Um, and while we're on the topic, Tom, let's remind everyone to, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the notification bell so when new shows are uploaded, you'll be notified so you can stay informed. And we're here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time.
Absolutely. Hit that thumbs up button. And of course, we're going to be talking about the most intriguing topics on YouTube this evening, as we do every Wednesday. And if at any point in time you'd like to call in, make a comment, or ask a question, call that number 972-497-2280. Again, that is 972-497-2280.
So the phone line is open and the chat line is open if you want to send us a text message via YouTube. So Tom, we talked that we said last year that we were going to up the ante this year and
Yes, sir.
become a little bit more solution or oriented. So I think we've kept our promise this year of the topics that we have discussed so far. We have provided some viable solutions for things that people can do to help themselves and help the black community. And tonight, Tom, we have a very interesting, fascinating topic where we're discussing principles for young black boys to help them transition that they can carry into manhood and that will serve them well in life.
Absolutely, Jimmy. This is one of no, this is the most critical topic in our community that we have to address every day, all the time, from the time we're waking up to the time we go to sleep at night. Young men are our future leaders. And if we talk about the black community in particular, there are a lot of provocative conversations that we can have about raising boys. But we, as two grown men today, are here to talk about principles for raising young black men. And that doesn't matter whether you have a single parent household, a dual parent household, whether it's a mother raising sons or you have a father and a mother raising sons. All of these things are going to be timeless and we have to stay focused on because at the end of the day, we've got a lot of challenges in front of us, Jimmy.
Yes, we do, Tom. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spend this show and next week going over the principles. There's 22 of them total. And then after that, we're going to sort of gauge the responses, and we're going to try to do a summit maybe in July or definitely by August before school starts back up to invite young boys to come and join the show where we're going to go through the principles again with them and talk about it. Just have a real conversation as to how to apply these things and how to make them work for yourself. So Tom,
Right.
without because we have a lot to cover and
Yeah.
in a short time to do it in. Oh, I want to say the quote that you had from Frederick Douglass. Go ahead and take this moment to I think that sums up what this effort is about.
Absolutely, Jimmy. There was a saying for those of you, I don't think there's anybody who's on earth who should not know who Frederick Douglass is, the great orator and advocate for freedom and for the rights of black people in America. But one thing that he said a long time ago that it was very, very poignant in our discussion, it is much easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And that says a whole
It
lot.
says a whole lot, Tom. In fact, that pretty much sums up this entire effort as we are attempting to do what we can to help build strong men. And so,
And why is that important? And why is that important, Jimmy? And why is that a topic that we even have to discuss? Why do we even need to bring this up? Why is this
well,
relevant,
Tom, because
in
it
your
seems
opinion?
it seems like masculinity has been so watered down and is under attack. But on top of that, within the black community, our black men are falling by the wayside. Tom, they're weak, they're feckless, they lack responsibility, they lack leadership, and it is destroying the black family. In fact, what little we have left to be savage, we need to work and fight hard to save that little piece that's left before it's totally lost.
And Jimmy, I mean, there are a lot of strong black men out there, including the two that are hosting this show. So when you say that, what do you mean? Be a little bit more specific.
Well,
Because every
what I'm saying is that the course since the '60s, the black man has been run out of the household and encouraged to abandon his family. The black woman has been encouraged to get rid of the black man, and now the black man is so low on the totem pole. Tom, we're not respected, we're not valued, we're not looked up to by society as a whole. We're not in the press, not in the media, not in television, not in print, not even in society among our own people. So that has to change. We need strong fathers in the household to teach young men how to become strong men. Not these metrosexual, bag carrying, earring piercing boys that just grow up to be. They go from being teenage boys to grown boys. Never ever quite achieving manhood in the sense that physically being a man, but not mentally, emotionally, and maturity wise.
And for those brothers who are out there, again, I don't believe Jimmy is talking to every black man out there. I don't think he's talking to all the responsible brothers out there who are handling their business. However, I think
Not
what
those
Jimmy's
brothers,
speaking to,
Tom. Yes, that's correct. Not those brothers.
exactly. So we're not getting confused and getting people pissed off early. But what we do, or what we are seeing, Jimmy, is we're seeing a changing of the
Yes, it's
guard
guard.
and a
Yes.
turning of the corner when it comes to the generational ethos of what we're seeing among our young black men from the prior generations, especially towards the end of the 20th century into the 21st century. And I know we've talked on several occasions about what we feel are the precursors to what we're seeing. And we're going to talk today about what is it that, as parents and as mentors, that we have to focus on in developing strong black men. Because, quite frankly, our community is not going to be in a position of strength. It's not going to be in a position of power. It's not going to be in a position to compete on the global scheme, economically or socially, without strong black men.
That is
So
correct.
let's kind of start off, because you have a list here that was taken from a book written by Ronald Barnes. I don't have the name of the book right now, and we have a pretty long list. We may not be able to get to all of them, and that's not to say that this is every specific principle, but
Correct.
this is a pretty good representation. So the first thing that I have on this list is: a man's source of strength is God. A man's source of strength is God.
Yes, Tom, and I'll say this, that of course what we're going through now has been prophesied by the Bible, and whether you're a church going religious person or not, or just a spiritual person who reads your Bible, or just a person who believes in God. You need to make God the centerpiece of what you do in life. It took me a long time to learn this lesson, Tom, and I would definitely say that when I started truly applying the principles outlined in the Bible, old and new, to my life got much better. But because the Bible outlines pretty much how to be Lord and Master over your domain, over your house, over your family, and how to be a leader in a Christian way, because it's built on responsibility, not bossing people around. And once you apply that to your life, you put God into the center of your marriage and in your household when you raise your children, how you apply to raising and managing your household, and even to your employment and then socially. You would be much better in life when you do that.
So, on a practical sense, and we're really talking about and targeting young black men. So when we
Yes.
start talking about young black, and when you're young, Jimmy, you're getting out of high school, you're getting out of college, you're in your early 20s, you see the entire world in front of you, you think you have 200 years to live. And sometimes, unless you've been in a very God centered household, this can be very difficult for some young men to grasp. But you said you had to even mature to this point. So, what's some
Yes.
practical advice that you can give them?
I would say pray every day, Tom. I pray multiple times a day, not just when I go to bed. All during the day, I've always done that. And one thing I've discovered, Tom, is that I did not get through life by myself. I've been very fortunate in life. When I pray, I don't ask God for material things. I don't ask for money. I generally pray for other people, and I pray for guidance and understanding and wisdom. I pray to know the things that I need to know, not to fall into trouble. And my prayers have always been answered. My doors have always been open for me. I've been very fortunate that whatever's going on in my life, I generally don't worry about it. I don't stress over things because a door has always been opened up and the God has always been with me. So I'm going to say, regardless whether you're, like I said, a church going person, a Bible reader, if you pray and you believe in God and put your faith, I mean absolute faith, you're now to a point where you don't stress or worry about how you're going to get your bills paid, how you're going to get through the next day or the next month, how your investments are going to do. Trust me on this. Put your faith in God. Walk with God. You will be okay. There have been many times I've been in danger. Did not worry. I've got through it. I know it wasn't by myself. I didn't do it. There's no way in the world I could have done it by myself. But God has always been there with me. So my faith is absolute. I have it's rock solid, Tom. I have no doubt that God is always with me no matter what I'm doing. So that's why I have the confidence. When I say I'm the Jimmy Stewart, that's what I mean. That this is the Jimmy Stewart that walks with God, talks to God on a daily basis, put my absolute faith that God's going to deliver for me. So what in the world do I have to worry about? What do I have to stress over? Very little in
Absolutely.
life, Tom.
Absolutely, Jimmy. I mean, one is reading scripture. And, it doesn't really matter whether you're talking the Bible, the
Right. Or the Quran.
Quran,
I read the Quran also. Uh,
exactly,
let
or
me
I mean,
see.
or any of the holy books that are out there.
Yes.
We're not advocating any particular religion or any particular faith, but we all understand that there is but one God. There are many branches to which you reach Him, and at the end of the day, understanding what His Word says, what the essence of God is, and also, to Jimmy's point, being in prayer daily, asking for direction, asking for guidance, and quite frankly, being very vocal about what your beliefs are and not being afraid to profess that. But let's go ahead and go because I mean we
Yes.
want to make
Yes.
sure we have a lot to get through. Second, the second principle: a man must respect women at all
At all
times.
times, Tom. Um, respect your mother, respect your grandmother, respect women, period. No matter if the woman's not your mother, she's somebody's mother, and she represents a group, Tom, that is the mother to humanity. All of the world, everyone who's lived, who will live, or has ever lived, came from the genes of a black woman and a black man initially. So when the Bible calls on you to respect your and honor your mother and your father, so your days may be longer, that means all women, not just your immediate mother. That's where you start, but then you branch from there. Um, Always find a way, Tom, to look up and cherish the mother to humanity. Don't and I know there's some women out there who've been taught to allow themselves to be degraded, and I feel for those girls who grow up into women who don't have anyone to teach them better. But don't become part of the problem, going around calling women bees and hoes and mistreating them. Because all you're doing is you're going against the true nature of what God really intends for you. You honor women, you look out for them, you respect them, you protect them. That is what they're there for. And when you finally get a woman, Tom, who is secure in life, she is worth her weight in gold, platinum, and titanium. Trust me on that.
So Jimmy, let me ask you this. I mean, you
Hmm.
brought up some very good points, and I agree with you, 200% on this. But you also brought up some realities. I mean, unfortunately, there are, and we're not maybe talking as much about mothers and aunts and grandmothers, but we're talking about for if we're targeting young men, let's keep it 100 when we talk about their peers.
Yes.
And for young women who, for whatever reason, exploit and don't really have a respect for themselves, how do you deal with that? How do you manage that engagement, that relationship as a young man when a woman isn't respecting herself?
Well, Tom, you still honor her and give her the respect, and you let her know, she may be insulted by your action, but you let her know
Right.
that she is worthy of this respect. She is worthy of the praise that you're giving her, regardless of what she thinks of herself. And you never know, Tom. That may be the catalyst to light a spark with her, for her to decide that she may want to turn things around. That she may not want to be considered, the way she's looked upon. She may want to change her ways. So you never know what that turning point is going to be and who's going to be the catalyst to make that happen. But we should all do our part. We're not going to disrespect women. We're especially not going to disrespect black women. No matter how much, what they say, do, how they act, we're going to do our part as black men to always show them respect. And whether they appreciate it or not. Don't take it personally if she doesn't. That just means that she needs a lot more conditioning. And with a lot more of us, Tom, showing her praise and respect, that may be just what she needs to turn things around, especially if she doesn't have a father in the household or grew up around a strong male.
Absolutely, and Jimmy, I'll speak very personally about this. The difference between women who grew up with a strong father and those who did not, it
Night and
is
day, Tom.
night. It is absolutely
Yes, it
night and
is.
day in terms of their disposition, their communication style, their reverence for themselves, how they carry themselves, Jimmy. And it's very very easy. It has nothing to do with their level of attractiveness or
Right.
whatever that attracts you to them. But what's in between their ears, Jimmy, is the most critical piece of it. When a woman has had a father or father figure in her life, he has been constructive. He has been the leader of the household, and he has taught her how to identify herself as a queen.
Right.
Jimmy, it makes all the difference in the world. And quite frankly, Jimmy, it's something that we as men, we're going to have this conversation a little bit later on, are going to have to deal with, because not only are we having challenges with a lot of our men who are out there, but a lot of our women who
Yes.
are out there because of the absence of the black man in the household. But let's go ahead and go to the
Okay.
next principle. A man must be strong as possible, mentally and physically. And Jimmy, this is one of those things that we have to have a conversation about, because a lot of times when we think about strong, we think about physical strength. We think about athletes, someone who's on the ball court, or someone who is physically strong. And quite frankly, God designed men to be physically stronger so that they can protect their women,
Correct.
so they can protect their household, so they can protect their children. But Jimmy, it's just as critical that they be mentally strong, because you can have a man that is physically strong but mentally very weak.
Well, Tom, that is where a lot of our, I'm not going to say most, that's where a lot of our young black men are. Um, that they are physically strong, but they were raised by women. So they are mentally weak, they're emotionally strong, but that's not where your strength should come from as a man. You need to not just be balanced, but you have to be mentally strong, Tom. This is a tough world out there.
What does that mean, and what does that look like?
That means that you're not afraid to take on the challenges of life, Tom. You're not afraid to go out there and take accept responsibility for a family. I hear so many young men, who are afraid. They say they don't want the financial burden, that that this is going to cost them, that the diapers cost and children cost and tuition cost. Yes, that is all true. Very much. But you shouldn't be afraid. Your role in life is to expand your gene pool. You were put on here to create. You are a God among men. That's what you were created for. You're the closest thing to God in the universe. So why in the world should you go through life being afraid? You were made to create. So do your part with a woman, create a family, your offspring, spread your genes like you're supposed to. Don't let the fears of life stop you from that process. And so this is where walking with God, going back to that very first one, will help you. Pray on the things that you're afraid of. Ask God for guidance and to help you. And I guarantee you the fears of your life you can put behind you, or at least you can face them knowing that you're not by yourself.
And let me add a little bit to that, Jimmy, because I
Hmm.
mean this is one thing that is very very difficult and very subtle, and
Yes.
especially when you spoke to women raising boys. And I want to speak to all of our mothers out there, and even if you have mothers in a household where there's a father, mothers have a tendency to want to love their sons, and there's nothing wrong with loving their sons. But women are designed differently than men, where men draw the line and they end up pushing the eagle out of the nest so that he can fly. Women have a tendency to hold on to their sons. A
Yes.
lot of this is historical in nature because if we go back 2 to 300 years, when we had our African ancestors here who were fighting for their lives, literally under enslavement,
Correct.
speaking out and being a natural man could literally get you lynched, could get you killed, could get you hung. And so, what has happened, especially and specifically in our communities, is that our mothers over a period of time have unfortunately reached a point where over generations they've become overprotective of their male child, seeking to protect them because of the historical trend of men being attacked. And let's be very clear, black men are still being attacked. At the end of the day, as men, we have to be raised, number one, to protect and defend, but more importantly, especially as young men, we have to have the freedom and the confidence to make our own decisions and live with the consequences of it, intended or unintended,
Right.
whatever those consequences may be. The worst thing that you can have, and I'm pretty sure I'm talking to a lot of sisters out there, is dealing with a man who cannot make a decision and who cannot move forward, whether it's fear or whether it's not knowing what the consequences are. Part of what Jimmy was talking to a little bit earlier. Sisters, if you're hearing me, again, push that like button, give us a call, let us know what you're thinking. Because at the end of the day, if you are dealing with a man, whether it's your husband, your boyfriend, your son, and you're talking about somebody who cannot make a decision, you got a problem in another
Yes, you do,
5 years,
Tom.
10 years, and 20 years in a relationship with a family.
And Tom, how many of our friends, I mean, women that we know, them and their husbands are in that situation, how elated they were in the beginning. Oh, I get to make the decision. I get to be in charge. I trust me. I don't trust him, but it doesn't matter because I get to make the decisions. And then years later, Tom, they are so stressed, so sick of the situation, so disgusted with their man that he can't make a decision in their marriage or their relationship that it just wears them down. So yes, Tom, what you spoke to, and we all know women in that situation, and in the long run, Tom, they're not happy. They're not happy
Miserable.
with miserable.
Matter of fact, Jimmy, they're miserable.
Yes,
I don't know of any woman with a man who can't make a decision who is not absolutely miserable. And you know what, sisters? Sometimes you're not going to like the decision that he makes. But at the end of the day, you should not be with a man whose lead you cannot follow.
that
And
is
if you
correct,
cannot
Tom.
follow his lead, quite frankly, you don't need to be with him.
One
But on
hundred
the other
percent,
hand,
man.
Jimmy, a lot of, and we're not going to stay here too long, or I'm not going to stay here too long. A lot of our women were raised to lead in spite of the man. And a lot of our young boys raised to be men learn inherently to
The
follow women
following women,
because the
yes,
majority of them were raised by women. And
yes.
so they are accustomed psychologically to follow a woman's lead. At the end of the day, mothers, sisters, women, no, it's not your job to make decisions for men, but mothers and fathers in particular, you have to give your sons, your man children, the room to make decisions and more importantly, to
Fail. Yes.
make mistakes and live with the consequences because that is a critical skill set that they have to have as a man if they are going to lead a family, if they're going to lead a community, or if they're going to lead a nation.
And Tom, one more thing before we move to the next one. if you're a woman and you find yourself in this situation with a man who doesn't want to make decisions, um, when you encourage him to do so, like Tom said, if he makes mistakes because he's not good at it, you have to be patient and give him a chance to make mistakes. You can always let him know that you expect him to make better decisions for you, for the family, for your children, and put it on him. Let him know that I believe in you, I have faith in you, I have confidence that you can do this. Do not make bad decisions and put your family in harm's way. Learn from your mistakes. Get better at it. As long as you're making progress, hey, I'm there with you. But now if you go spend our rent money and the rent's due tomorrow, you being irresponsible, yeah, I'm not gonna live with that. I'm gonna leave. I can't be with someone I can't follow. And if you're that irresponsible, then you can't be the man over this family. And I've made a huge mistake in life that needs to be corrected. So Tom, what's the next one?
Next principle: a man must protect his loved ones even to his death.
Tom, this
And
comes
Jimmy,
from the Bible. And I
absolutely.
feel strong about this, and I tell women
Yeah.
this all the time. They say, well, how do I know if I'm with the right guy? The right guy will lay his life down for you. If he's not willing to die for you, then you don't need him in your life. If he's not willing to take the bullet, push you out of the way, take a car accident for you, his whole job is to protect. Following the ministry of Jesus Christ, Jesus died for his flock. Whether you believe in him or not, one of his followers or not, it doesn't matter. He still laid his life down. He knew that that was his job, and then he was going to face that cross one day and deal with it. So you face it like a man. You don't cower out. You don't push women aside while you hide, and then they left in the hallway taking bullets. Which that's another situation. We're not gonna go into too much
Thank
detail.
you.
You know how I feel about
Thank
that.
you.
But
Thank
still,
you.
if you're not sure about the man in your life, just ask him, are you willing to die for me? If he and haw, if he has to think about it too hard, if he has to give you a bunch of reasons as to why he needs to live, then yeah, he's letting you know right now that he's not quite ready to be the man in your life, and you should confront him
But
on
Jimmy,
that and call him on it.
if you have a boy who was raised by a mother and has never seen a father lead, never seen a father who's willing to give his life for his family, for his wife, for his children, how do you develop that in a young man who's never seen that because all he's seen is his mother out front?
Yes, Tom. Well, you have to start, and this is why the summit that we have coming up in a month or two, we're going to invite young boys to come out so we could talk about this, go into some detailed examples and things you need to start doing right now. You start by respecting your mother and your sister if you're in a household with women. You start with your aunts, you start with friends of yours, and you always stand up for what's right. If you see a guy putting his hands on a woman, you see him abusing someone, you need to step up, whether she is someone you know or not. Just the fact that she is a woman and she is the fair sex, and you are a man, you start applying these principles in life to everything in life, Tom. Not just your immediate family. You can practice with your friends. You can practice with strangers. I'm sure as you're walking around school, you see some young boys, some of your peers abusing young girls. And when you see that, Tom, be man enough to speak up and defend her. She doesn't have to be your girlfriend. She doesn't have to be anyone that you know. Just the fact that she is a woman who is in need of help, you help her.
Jimmy, it's interesting that you bring that up. I had a good friend of mine. Matter of fact, he was ex-army, and he was telling me he was out one night, and I don't know if he was grabbing something to eat or whatever it is, and he saw this dude just slapping this girl around, just really pummeling him. I guess they
Hmm.
were by their car, and his instincts kicked in, and he went and pushed the guy off of him, and pushed him off and kicked him around. And interestingly enough, Jimmy, in this particular case,
She
this
probably
woman, I don't
attacked
know
him.
who, she attacked him. She
Yes.
attacked him for attacking her man, who he was trying to save from her because he was beating the snot out of her. And, it was kind of a funny, but not so funny at the time because as a man, he was doing the right thing. But unfortunately, this woman had obviously such low self esteem. She didn't realize how she should be treated as a woman.
Well,
And so she attacked a man who was actually trying to protect her.
right. Let me say one thing, Tom, before we move on this, just on this particular topic right here, because I've seen this in life also. There are some women who don't know what real love is, and so what they do know is that if they can somehow create a fight with their man, even, especially if he hits on her, slaps her around, hit on her, um, there is so much guilt afterwards on his part. He's apologetic, he's sorry, he's attentive, he's listening, he's talking. There may be some makeup sex involved, but during that moment after the fight, she feels really, really loved. Unfortunately, it doesn't last that long time. It dissipates. And when she gets to the point where she wants to be loved again, guess what she's been trained and conditioned to do? Create
Absolutely.
another fight
Absolutely.
with you. Push you to the
Absolutely.
point where it's not just an argument, it may be a physical. But even the physical abuse, Tom, there's a tremendous benefit because a lot of guys who hit women, when you say, "Hey, man, how did you do that?" Well, she pushed me. She pulled every string. I feel so bad. I feel so sorry. There's always remorse afterwards, and that's a very powerful aphrodisiac and a powerful incentive for women to get you back to that state. So the secret is learn to love your woman without causing her to feel deficient. Sit down and talk with her. You may have to make some changes in life. She may ask you to do some things that you don't feel comfortable doing, but if these are the things that she need, do your absolute best to give it a try. I'm not saying you're always going to succeed, but at least work towards the perfection of your relationship, even though you may not get there. But do not. I mean, if it gets to the point where you got to fight and be trying to, tempted to put hands on someone, something's terribly wrong there. Y'all need to sit
And
down with some
right,
counseling
Jimmy.
and someone who can advise y'all on what to do next, on how not to get to that state, to get to a love. Because all she wants is love. All you want is peace
Absolutely.
of mind, and you want to be loved also. But y'all have boundaries, and obviously those needs are not being met, and either you fight or you go cheat.
Right. And Jimmy, for what it's worth, a lot of times when you have situations like this, you're talking about either the man or the woman who
Hmm.
has come from a domestic family environment in the first place. And quite frankly, that's all that they understand about love because that's probably what they grew up with. And so, whether you have a girl who was abused and beaten when she was young, maybe saw her mother being beaten by her father or by some other man, or you had a boy who grew up in the same type of environment who saw his father, abusing or beating his mother, quite frankly, quiet as is kept, you have some women who beat up on their men or their husbands.
Right,
So,
that is true.
that I would agree with you. You need to get some counseling, but I don't think that there is a good end to that, Jimmy, because sometimes those types of things do end up being fatal. But let's move on to the next principle that we want to talk about today. A man must provide for his family. This is something that we talk about all the time, Jimmy. If there's any one thing, any one principle that we have to reinforce among young boys growing up and or young men is that first and foremost you need to be able to take care of yourself.
Right.
But on top of that, before you get involved with any woman, you have to be prepared to take care of the woman that you would, and therefore your family. Jimmy, we are seeing things getting a little bit twisted nowadays, where you actually have
Twisted, Tom.
women,
Come on. That's being
women
kind.
who women who are taking care of the men. We're trying to be very clear because this is a family show as well. But you have women taking care of men nowadays, and women take. I mean, I know women who have worked two
I
and
do
three
too,
jobs
Tom.
taking care of
The
taking
guy
care
sitting
of
at
their
home.
husband. Absolutely, absolutely.
Guys sitting at home, riding around in their automobile, can't even be on time to pick her up from work, and she's the breadwinner. So yes, Tom, we know those situations. It's very sad. I feel for those women, but those are their choices. And I wish in every one of those cases, Tom, that the women would rise up. And I'll be brief. I'm going to tell this quick story. Years ago, Tom, I was invited by this Christian women's group. I can't remember the name here in Dallas. Um, but while I was there speaking on the very topic, a young lady asked me, she wanted me to explain why her man left. And Tom, she worked two jobs. He stayed home. He then asked her to have a baby for him, which she did. And things were okay until baby number two, which he didn't ask for, came. Then after baby number two came, he left. So she wanted me to explain why he left. And I said, well, first of all, is it too much to ask him to commit to you before God and for friends and family and marry you? Is it too much to ask him to provide a house for y'all for his family before he come asking you to have a child for him? That child was an anchor baby. That child was to keep any other man from wanting to be with you. The second child, that was your choice or your somewhat responsibility for letting it happen. But at that time, working two jobs and raising two children and having a man who's not helping, you don't have any time for him, so he's gone. So, before you start laying down and people whispering in your ear about having babies, ask him to at least provide. Because what happens if you lose your job, Tom? You have now she's a young woman with two children. What are her prospects for marriage?
Very few. Very, very few. Unless you're talking about somebody who is at least as in bad a condition as she is. Next principle. A man's word is his bond, which means that, this is kind of going back to old school, the things that our parents and grandparents taught us is that, literally your word is your representation of yourself. And if you're not a man of your word, you have no credibility, you have no respect, and quite frankly, you're not a man.
That is true, Tom. So when you give your word to do something, do it. Period. And if you can't do it, then you need to go back to the person you gave your word to and explain to them why you can't do it. Don't lie. You don't have to twist. You don't have to turn. You have to bend. You have to scratch. You don't have to do anything other than just tell the truth as to where you are. If you don't want to do it, then be man enough to say, "I just don't want to do it," and let the chips fall where they fall. Tom, all too often we don't want to look bad. Our image and projection is more important than the substance of who we are. But it's the substance of who you are that speaks louder and is what people really come to know. And when people come to know you as someone that they can't trust, who words means nothing, then they can't look upon you as being a strong man. They look upon you as for what you are, but you're a liar, you're weak. You have to lie about stuff that doesn't even worth that's not even worth lying about. So learn to when you give your word to follow through with it. If you give your word to a woman to take care of her, take care of her. Don't I was going to take care of you if you did X, Y, and Z. Don't worry about what she's doing or not doing. When you get to the point where you can't honor your word to someone, go to that person and let them know I can't keep my promise. I can't honor my word. And here's the reason why. If you're important to know why, if you want to know why, but that's the right thing to do. Don't sit there and engage in lies and cover-ups. Don't try to push it back on the other person. Well, I was planning on doing this, but you did this and you said that, so I'm not going to do it now because of you. Don't be that kind of person.
Absolutely, Jimmy. I mean, this is, and this is biblical. I mean,
Yes.
this is literally biblical. If you go into the book of Genesis, and these are principles of, you know, God. I mean, the word was God. He said, and it was, and that literally is the personification of man in terms of who he is and the essence of man in the word of God.
Well, Tom, and plus, God made you in His image. So he didn't make you to be weak. He didn't make you to be the kind of person that can't keep your word. See, strength of character is very important. That's part of being mentally strong. One of the principles we already covered. When even on a job front, when you say you're going to accept a job, do what you say you're going to do. Show up on time. Do the work for the period of time that they're paying you to do it, and do it in the best fashion that you can do it. Be that kind of person who always honors what you do and what you say and your commitments. And trust me, you'll be better off in life. People will look upon you as no matter where you are on the socioeconomic scale, Tom, where you are in school, life, professionalism, white collar, blue collar, it doesn't matter. When you have strength of character and people come to know you as being a strong person, they look up to you, no matter what your position in life. In fact,
You know,
a lot of people are going to want to be like you, and there are going to be a lot of women who are attracted to you just because you have mental strength. Trust me on this.
and I think, and wrapping this up before we go to the next principle, whether somebody thinks you're good or whether somebody thinks you're bad, one thing that they do know is that you're a person of your word. Whether
Yes.
they like it or don't like it is immaterial. But the reality of it is, it's like, you know what? I may not like what he said, but at the end of the day, that person was honest with me,
And
and
I
I
can
can't fault them
respect
for
that. That's right. I can't
that.
fault it, and I can respect them for it. What's the next one, Tom?
Absolutely. A man must have discipline.
What number are we on?
Extremely. We are on to 4, 6, 7. That's number
Okay, we're
7.
making good time. What's number 7?
A man must have discipline.
Okay. This one is very important, Tom. And I struggle with that sometime. I don't know if you guys, I've told you guys or not, but I have a bit of an addiction. I come from a family of addicts, but mine is not drugs, but it is sugar and food. I'm probably a food addict, and so and it's taken me a very long time. And once again, Tom, the answer was in the Bible. I had to learn to start applying fasting to my life. They got my cravings under control. I'm slowly losing weight, about a pound a week. I feel much better in life, and I even now crave healthier foods when before I craved a lot of junk food. So, and I'm saying this is discipline is very hard. It's very hard to do. But when you apply things over in your life over and over, you have confidence in yourself. You know what you're doing. Then it's very easy to be disciplined. But we all have some vice in life, Tom, and whatever that is, you don't run from it. You face it head on.
Absolutely, Jimmy. And really, this comes pretty much like learning. And when I say that to the degree that learning comes from simplicity and repetition. You
Yes.
have to break something down to its most fundamental element, and you have to repeat it over and over and over again. And not just when it's easy, but when it's difficult, whether it's rain, snow, sleep, or shine. If it's 100 degrees outside, 20 degrees outside, discipline becomes habit.
Right.
Habit becomes action, and it becomes you. And so anything that you are seeking to achieve in life, whether that is getting a degree, whether that is getting a certification, whether that's going to medical school, whether that's even fasting and losing weight. I
Right.
mean, it literally, once you get over the most difficult part of a hurdle and exercise discipline, it becomes a part of who
It
you are.
becomes part of your lifetime. It becomes a lot easier to do when people look at a very disciplined person. They say, "Oh, well, he or she is going through life, and they make it look easy." Well, it is easy for them now, but you don't know what they had to go through to get to that point. And the point is, it does require repetition and work, and to stick with it. So, and if you do those things, you too can be a very disciplined person and be very successful in life.
Absolutely. Next is a man must have the will to win. And we're not just talking about in sports, whether that's football, basketball, and we understand that we talk about winning. We're typically talking about a sport, whether it's track or baseball or soccer or whatever it is. But when we start talking about the will to win, or I'm going to speak personally, we're talking about the will to win in life.
Right.
And that comes in several different iterations. It comes in several different components, and having a winning attitude, having a will to win in life, regardless of what that means. That means you're going to have to deal with difficult circumstances. That means you're going to have to deal with sometimes things that you think are, quite frankly, are going to be over your head. But at the end of the day, there is nothing that is going to be put before you that is not there to teach a lesson or to help you develop or advance in life, even if for whatever reason you don't get what you want initially. Whether it's going to law school, or whether it's winning a championship in a sport, or whatever it is, sometimes you don't see things until several years down the line as to why you went through a specific scenario, and especially when you didn't get what you want. But it's the grind and the discipline of continuing to give your absolute best that
Right.
makes the difference. And doing things, in one of my least favorite coaches, who I'll leave nameless, says doing things in the right way. And that's
Yes.
how I'm going to apply it. Doing things in the right way and having a winning mental attitude. It makes all the difference in
All the
life.
difference, Tom. And you're right. It's about winning in life. It's not about material things. It's not about money. It's not about how much bling you can stack up. It really comes down to winning in life. If you're a family man, it's about taking care of your family, being responsible, being a leader of that household, and raising, really your children to be functional adults. That's part of your responsibility. Take pride in what you've accomplished. That is the winning, Tom. When you can win in life, All the other things that you think are important really aren't. That's what you should take pride in. Everyone can be a winner because everyone can lead. Everyone can be responsible. I think Martin Luther King gave a speech where he spoke about this, where he says everyone can be a winner, everyone can lead, because everyone can be responsible. And so when you accept responsibility for life and for others, and you live up to the things, your principles in life, then you too are a winner. Regardless of what other people think, as long as you know that you are doing these things, then you can feel good about yourself and knowing that you're a winner.
And Jimmy, another one of the things that goes along with that, and having the will to win, and at a very early age, it makes a huge difference. Understanding your purpose in
Right.
life has a huge factor in terms of your whole mindset when it comes to everything that you do in life. And as you mature, what that purpose in life is going to evolve. When you're a young person, you're thinking that your purpose in life, may be an attorney or a teacher or an astronaut or whatever it is. But as you age in life and as you mature and as you begin to understand the essence of humankind and understand who you are as a person, then your whole mindset when you look back 10, 20, 30 years will begin to change and you will
Yes.
begin to evolve. But the most important thing is having a purpose, having a focus, setting and reaching goals. You can't even put a dollar value on what you can accomplish in life by setting, reaching, and continuing to expand on your goals in life, Jimmy.
That is true, Tom. That is true. And so, what's our next one?
Our next one is kind of a corollary to that. A man knows that the will to win means nothing without the will to prepare. This is huge.
Well, Tom, when I was in the military, we had a saying that, you know, um, let me see, what was the saying? It was the 4 or 5 P's. Um, that PS4 Performance.
Piss poor preparation prevents. Piss
Yes,
poor
poor
preparation prevents.
preparation, results in piss poor performance. So, you have to plan to win in life. This is why when you look at some of the books on how to be successful, the 7 habits. What do they say? Put a plan together. Write your 5 year goal, your 3 year goal, your 1 year goal, your 3 month goal, and make sure that you revisit these things and make sure that you're staying on track with the plan that you're trying to achieve in life. If you don't, you just wake up every day and let the wind take you wherever it blows, then you may end up someplace, Tom, you don't want to be years from now. And this is where prayer is important. Pray daily, not just at night, not just over your food. I mean, pray just when you're going through life. Take a moment out every now and then and pray. And don't ask God for a pay raise. Don't be asking God for the promotion. Ask God. Pray for some wisdom and guidance. Ask God to lead you someplace where you need to be. And when God takes you there, when that door opens, don't be afraid to walk through it, Tom. Sometimes that means that you may have to make a change in life. But if life is not working out for you, guess what? God is talking to you by letting you know that you're on the wrong path. You're not built or designed to be a failure, Tom. So if you look at your life and it's not working out, then know that you need to take a different path. And the best way to figure out what that path is prayer. I promise you, God will open a door for you. When it opens, Tom, when you get the acceptance letter, or someone recommends you go to school, or here's a job opening over here. I had a friend of mine, Tom, and I'm not going to mention his or her name because we both know her or him, but prayed, was always complaining about, the quality of the car and things at work. Okay, well, you end up with a new job and a better car in life and making more money. And guess what? Still complaining. Never ever saw that God blessed you in life. God answered every one of your prayers. You wanted more money, you got more money. You wanted a different job because these people were driving you crazy. Now you had another job and complaining that the people here are driving you crazy. You were complaining about your car being old. Now you have a better car. You know what? You need to be on your knees daily thanking God for the blessings in your life rather than sit up here complaining, thinking that still your life is not where it wants to be.
And Jimmy, kind of wrapping up this particular principle, the will to win means nothing without the win to prepare. And I believe, I don't know if you've read this book, But there was a book whose name that I believe the author, I don't remember, but I remember it had to do with masters. And I believe that it said that it takes at a minimum, I believe it was at least 10,000
10,000
hours
hours, Tom, to be good at
of
something.
commitment to
Yes.
be exactly to be a professional or an expert at something. And so when you look at the greatest at whatever they do, whether it's someone who is a Warren Buffett, or someone who is a Ray Dalio, or someone who is a someone as wealthy as a Magic Johnson. Most people think of him as a sports figure, but he is also a
Very
very,
big
very
businessman.
successful
Yes.
businessman. When you look at the amount of time that they put into developing their craft in business, in life, in family, in sports, or whatever you name it, literally going through the iteration, literally
Hmm.
exercising the discipline. It takes years and years,
Mm.
decades and decades of discipline, and to their point, preparation,
All
and to
right,
become
Tom.
a master at anything. So preparation absolutely leads to results. And I mean, if you're prepared, it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to ultimately be successful at some point in time. But let's go ahead and go to the next topic. A man must know the difference between right and wrong. This is pretty interesting and provocative topic, because a lot of times right and wrong kind of depends on what side of the tracks you may be on, or what side of a particular topic or subject you're thinking about.
Well, Tom, if you allow yourself to be influenced by life and your friends, you allow yourself to be a coward and not look to be a truthful person, an honest person, a disciplined person, then yes, right and wrong becomes a little fuzzy. But deep down, when you accept that you are a godly being, you are made by God, you are put here to be successful, you were not born in life to be a failure, then right and wrong becomes very easy. You can justify, stealing someone's wallet, because you need to eat or you need to do this, but deep down you know it's wrong. And so Tom, and sometimes we go through life vilifying other people because we don't want to accept that we wronged someone, and that's just being a coward. It happens in life. People do it. So so this comes back to right and wrong. Comes down to fundamental right and wrong. Tom, try to do right by people. Do as you would want. Do unto others as you'd want them to do unto you. Don't be the kind of person that goes through life justifying bad behavior and vilifying the other person, vilifying society, vilifying the nation to justify your wrongdoing. Deep down, if you know you're doing wrong, don't do it. And if you do it, be man enough to stand up and say, "Yes, I did it," and accept the consequences afterwards.
I'll keep my word on this very brief. I believe that the great creator puts a sense of understanding every one of us.
Yes.
And typically that sense of that instinct that's built in all of us, regardless of, what our lot in life is, tells us before we're about to make a decision, before we're about to do something that we know is questionable. If we've got to think about it, then obviously there's a reason that we are hesitating as to whether we should do something or not. And at the end of the day, God has built an internal barometer within every one of us, determining whether the decision we're
Yes.
about to make or something that we're about to do is right or wrong. And so I think this is a lot simpler one. We may be conditioned to believe that something that, well, I had to do what I had to do, but at the end of the day, consequences often come
True.
as a part of that. And you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes you can't continue to blame other people on things that you've been doing, and especially when you know what you're doing isn't right.
And Tom, don't allow yourself to be talked into something. I mean, if you know deep down that what you're going to do is wrong, don't do it. Don't go along with the crowd. Well, everybody else was doing it, so I just no. Don't be. That's a coward. You have to be your own
And
person. Sometimes you got to go
and,
against the crowd to be a man.
and in particular, peer pressure. And this
Yeah.
is a huge one for young people, because, quite frankly, the most one of the most important thing for young people is to be accepted, and to be
Yes.
accepted by the in crowd, whatever that might look like. And so a lot of times he or she may do something that they know isn't right principally, know isn't right biblically, or otherwise, in order to be accepted by someone. And quite frankly, Jimmy, we've talked about this on several occasions. Even when we think about what's happening in a lot of our inner cities in gang life, in order to become initiated in the part of a gang, which is really about protection, because in a lot of cases, you're literally talking about protecting your life. You may have to go out and do something that you know you
Right.
shouldn't do, but at the end of the day, you justify it by saying, if I'm gonna be able to have respect and protection, I don't really have an option.
Right. That is true. And Tom, let's get one more principle before we close out. That should be pretty close, about halfway through the list. And people,
All right.
don't fret. We will cover the other half next week. I promise we won't have the story won't be as long, and we will get through the remainder of the list. So what's the next one,
All
Tom?
right.
And then we'll
The,
close
ne-
out.
the next one, which is number 11, a man must be willing to take the consequences of his actions. This is something that we spoke of a little bit earlier. This is something that really hardens you as a man. I don't mean harden you in a bad way, but you spoke to something a little bit earlier, Jimmy, and that is character.
Yes.
Being willing to make decisions and dealing with the consequences in life. Regardless of what we say or what we do, being willing to own up to it, being honest with yourself in terms of making a good decision or a bad decision, but more importantly, understanding, learning from, and dealing with the consequences of your actions is an extremely powerful trait to have in life, because ultimately, if you're not afraid to make a decision, if you're not afraid to move forward, you're going to deal with the consequences. Sometimes they're not the way you want them to, but the reality of it is, Jimmy, this is counter to being afraid to make a decision
Right.
because you don't understand what the consequences are going to be. This is the making a decision, being intentional about doing something that, principally speaking, is a part of something that you have to do, and willing to live with whatever happens.
Well, Tom, that is true, and so we've talked about this before, and it does happen in life where people blame others because they don't want to accept the consequence of their own actions. And I'm here to say that that is not a manly principle. If there is anything you take from all of this, all of them are important, but this is one of the most important ones. Accept responsibility for your actions. Why? Because by accepting responsibility, you can do something about it. You can learn from it. You can adjust and you can make adjustments in life. But when you blame others for your decision and an outcome, then there's nothing to learn from that, Tom. And in fact, I've never gone through one of them 12-step programs or 10 steps or 8 steps, whatever the steps are. I've never gone through one of them, but one of the very first ones, I believe in all of them, is accept personal responsibility. And there's one of the steps is going back and trying to apologize and right some of the wrongs that you've done towards others. But accepting responsibility is one of the first steps in all of them, Tom. So this is a very important principle to master. And with that being said, Tom, we're almost out of time. So
Okay, well,
let's
let's
go.
go ahead and close this
Let's
show
go ahead
out.
and wrap up, and then you can close us out with a prayer.
All right. Why don't we have everyone to bow your heads, dear Lord and gracious Father? We come before you this evening, thanking you for bringing us together again. We thank you for putting your shroud of protection over us, Father. We ask you to continue to give us the vision, the insight, the understanding, the clarity, and most importantly, the discipline to focus on those things that you have built us to do in this world. Understanding, Father, that we all have a very unique and specific purpose in life, and that you would help us to understand what our true nature is as a child of God, to help us understand what it is that you would have us to do, and to walk in the steps that your word has given us today, tomorrow, and forever. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Let the congregation say amen. Well, Tom, we got
All right.
halfway through the list, which is
Yes.
important. So, and I think that's
We're
our
gonna have to drill. We're gonna have to drill. We're gonna have to drill through it
yes.
next week, so we can make sure we get through. Absolutely. So we want to thank everyone for joining us again this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Good night, everyone.